Why I said I investigated this before I ever came out and said, yeah, the Earth's flat, because I know how they claim this works. They never do claim that the moon is way up above 5 degrees to generate the eclipse shadow. That's not how this works. You might as well have made this video right here, just shown me this instead of the cartoon you came up with. It's just as believable. You're showing me a bunch of little cartoon that you drew up and giving me a right triangle like that even has anything to do with it. This is just as believable as what you showed me in your 20-minute babbling, which we'll get into later. See, Paul, I understand this is why you switched to a cartoon format in your latest video and went away from the 100% scale model that you began to explain parallax with, because it was based on an observer being 20 miles above the equator. When you start running this moon above the ecliptic, you can't have a direct correlation between the parallax from the center line of totality. It wouldn't be the exact same sliver opposite on each side of the line of totality. You realize that, and that's why you've now gone into this cartoon format and trying to use trig and your right triangle to save your model, because it doesn't work. That's why I say you claim Mr. Eclipse uses computers. Well, he would use these 3D models to scale from something like Blender or AutoCAD or any other 3D modeling software, but he doesn't. He never shows it. They use Soros cycles over a flat Earth. That's the reality of it. That's why I say, prove Jesus wrong. This is your last option. You failed to do it with the phases of the moon. So here, go back to your scale model and show me how this path will generate, 60 miles on each side of the center line of totality, a parallax, which you demonstrated in your scale model with everything lined up on the ecliptic plane. You can't show it. It wouldn't see that. It would be a big parallax on one side and no parallax on the other side because of the angle. You understand that? Again, solar and lunar eclipses, both solar and lunar, can only occur when the moon is ascending or descending across the sun-Earth line. Remember the ecliptic plane? You see that? So it can't be 5 degrees above the moon. That's not how they explain this stuff happening. But you don't even know the parameters of your own model. When I point out to you that the horizontal eclipse occurs when it disappears because the moon is apparently going opposite the direction you see it, which makes no sense at all, but it enters into the umbra shadow of the Earth, and that's when it disappears, which means it's going into 100% full. You wanted to babble on and argue about that for a while, and now every time I mention it, you totally ignore it because you know it's the truth. That's your model. That's not me saying it. It's just like you come back with this, I must believe in reptilians, I believe in all this conspiracy. Dude, you're the one that believes in fake space. I'm sure it doesn't correlate to you that Werner von Braun wrote a book about a guy named Elon leading them all to Mars, and he's been telling us he's going to have a moon base and send people to Mars and have all these people living there. I mean, sure, they'll make a video of that, probably in Greenland, but you'll lap it up. You don't question any of this silliness. Again, you should try reading some of that material from that website that I showed you from 2014. Look at this. What does it say? They've got all these Soros cycles numbered. They repeat every 18.6 years like clockwork, like a grandfather clock, or how you would determine an atomic clock. Very accurate. You claim it's not, but it is. This is how it works. They're not doing anything. But they put them in a spreadsheet, and they know, well, if it hit here, then you offset it in this Soros. They have several different cycles, so when you're in a certain cycle, this one here would repeat like 8 hours or whatever offset in this direction. And then the next Soros cycle that's in line over here will be offset again. So they know exactly it'll start 18 and a half years later, 11 hours or whatever. They know to the minute. So you wouldn't act like they don't. It's just absurd. Just like you don't know how your own model occurs. They don't ever claim that it occurs when the moon's way up here as you showed in your little drawing. You don't know your own parameters. That's why I said the sun, we know from what they tell us, never moves higher than above the Tropic of Cancer or below the Tropic of Capricorn. So the center line that you drew in your full-scale AutoCAD drawing can't be right as it pertains to Nashville, Tennessee, which you obviously know because you quit beating on about that. So you have to be on the node right here where they cross in line with the ecliptic plane for it to ever occur. You just don't understand your own model. See the nodes? You're not seeing these paths way the hell up here. They tell you because of the 5-degree tilt, that's why we don't see them every 6 months. Because of the apogee, perigee, that's why you get an annulus. They come up with all these different stories to explain what you're seeing, and then when you put it in practice, oh, it don't work. Oh, I can't draw it to scale. Let me show you a cartoon and just tell you it works. Wake up, dude. You just want to come up with any story to buy. You just ignore facts. I mean, I don't know how I'm ever going to reach you if you want to ignore the facts. If we can't come to common understanding of these different facts that they lay out to you, we're not ever going to progress. You see the nodes? I mean, come on, dude. This is simple Simon stuff. You don't need right triangles and trig to figure none of this out. See this? They're all numbered. Look here, they know it's going to happen because of this Soros cycle number, and it's going to be an annular. This is all mapped out. And it's not up here because it's 5 degrees above the center line. It can only be on the ecliptic. They tell you this. Wake up, dude. You're living in a dream world. See the nodes? That's why they don't occur all the time. That's why they're so rare. Otherwise, we'd have one be seen up here every 6 months. You'd see it somewhere on your ball if it worked like you said it works. But it don't. But you have to claim it does so that it makes sense, because it doesn't work in reality that way. You know that. Sorry, I just get so frustrated because this is simple, and I thought you understood your own model. You see here, right here, this is your total lunar eclipse, and you see it's directly in line with the Earth, this tapered shadow. See how that works? You're claiming that it's going opposite the direction we see it, so it wasn't 100% full waxing moon. It was 99-something% when we saw it begin to disappear. That's when it moved into the shadow here. And when it gets in here where it's at, you don't see this. It totally disappeared. Come on, dude. Wake up. That there tells you the phases don't occur as they do, because every other time the moon was over here, it was up visible for me with the sun. And now when it's over here, it's over on this horizon. That is opposite of what you see with your own eyes, what science, that's real science, observation, and it defies your optical observation. Screw refraction. If it was true, then it should have been on this side. Should have been in the east, not in the west. But yet again, like I said, we never see a waning full moon over here in the east, so refraction must be selective. And I had to keep saying that several times before you finally, I guess accepted it, because you quit talking. You would Every time I'd mention it in an email and a video, you never talk about that. So again, you failed to prove that Jesus was wrong. The phases of the moon gives its own light, just like he said, because what they claim is totally debunked. And you and I, because it just doesn't make sense, because you've drawn it up in now AutoCAD, you drew it up and the path is coming up over here, but now you realize, oh, that's right, the sun never moves above here, and I drew it from a perspective of somebody standing 20 miles north of the equator. Makes sense then, but when you project it up here at 40 degrees, it all falls apart and you know it. So then you want to come up with this silly excuse about, well, the moon is really 20,000 miles up on its 5-degree tip. No, it's got to be on a node on the ecliptic plane for all this to happen. Then the only thing that can happen to move it would be the tilt of the earth, right? And we know from the summer to the winter, only 23.5 degrees, which is the tropics. I mean, you're trying to fall into the same argument my cousin gave me about, well, the sun must have been in the center and people south of the line of totality, south of the center line, must have been looking north. And people north of the center line was looking south. No, everyone in North America faced south to see the damn thing. That's why what they describe makes no damn sense. This is why you don't have eclipses every 6 months, or every month, I guess, as it goes around the earth, because it's below or above the ecliptic plane. You can't see it. Like George Bush said, I have to repeat myself for the information to sink in. That node right there is where the eclipse would occur, lunar and solar. The ecliptic plane would be this line here. In order for there to be a total solar eclipse, this moon has to be on that plane. Otherwise, it can't happen. And as we've already stated, the tilt is 24 degrees, so the tropics. That would be the only place that a total solar eclipse should be seen if your model was real. That's probably why Jesus said it would be the only sign given, because he knew, if he knows the beginning from the end, he's the Alpha, the Omega, that this model or cartoon or drawing, never to scale, is a lie. So let's show what you write here. Just look at the absurdity of which you're explaining your conundrum. So technically it's possible. See, I like how you say technically, but you can't show it to with your scale model like you did when it was from a perspective of seen from the equator. Because once you put them in a straight line path, like you've got it right here, it doesn't work way up above in North America. So you want to try to claim it can be up here and do the same thing, and it cannot. This is how come our science claims we don't have one every month, because it doesn't line up. The annulus is also explained because the moon would be too close, apogee and perigee. But again, when you come from the perspective that they could be lying about these things, you will question the truthfulness of it. And you never seem to arrive at that. I've jumped ahead here for brevity's sake. Again, look at how you're describing what you're telling me, how this occurs. It's not completely false. You know it. You're stuck in a false paradigm of truth. Just because we know the total solar eclipses occur all over the Earth doesn't mean your heliocentric model, is true. You see, you can't depict truthfully how it can occur all over the flat Earth with your ball Earth imaginary heliocentric model. You just want to claim it does, and you want to say this 5-degree movement when your own science states the only time it can occur is when they're on the ecliptic plane. All 3 space balls in a line, which would put it near the equator, no higher than the tropics. You understand this? If you don't understand it, use that AutoCAD drawing to depict it. If they can tell you exactly where this is during the eclipse, because all they ever say is it's on the ecliptic. Again, it's the Soros cycle. You don't ever see an AutoCAD rendering of this stuff to scale that depicts how it happens. All you ever see is a cartoon, like I showed you, someone made of the 2024 and 2017 eclipses. There is no model. Soros cycle, I guess, is what you said there.
Established that total solar eclipses are pretty rare. But why is that? Because the moon can only be between the Earth and the sun, possibly catching us in its shadow once about every 29.5 days. But the moon's orbit doesn't line it up perfectly between the Earth and the sun every time, because it's tilted by 5 degrees. Most of the time, the moon's shadow misses the Earth by going above it or below it. That reduces the chances to just twice each year, 6 months apart. But not even all of those chances work out, because the moon's orbit isn't perfectly circular. That means sometimes it's farther away from us than others, and if it happens to be far enough away that we see it too small to cover the sun completely, leaving a bright ring or annulus of sun around it, that's not a total solar eclipse. It's called an annular eclipse.
Note how they, mention hijacker's passport found blocks from the crash site. I mean, when I heard that, I knew immediately it was a lie. Just like anyone that sees the Zapruder film and Kennedy's head gets blown out the back of the car and his wife tries to scramble out to pick up part of his skull, we know the shot come from the front, not the back. Simple physics. Just like these news stories are lies. No one wants to talk about these truths. And then it's all a conspiracy, and man, you're just paranoid. And you're not doing anyone a service by just refuting and parroting the same paradigms of silly people like Albert Einstein. Okay? You're not doing anybody any service by that. You didn't mention the fact of the Michelson-Morley experiment in the 1880s, and then later this silly theory with math by Einstein. You never remarked on any of that stuff. You just keep coming back with other things. You don't want to talk about the Bible. You don't want to talk about these silly experiments where you have to concur that something shrunk in length during the experiment. Silly stuff. Refute the evidence, my friend. Explain this. I really want to see your reply to explain why that link won't work for you. Like it's a dumb link that don't work. But it works here in this video fine, don't it? You saw it. They wish to tell you that these are the only thing you see at a certain perspective, but then they show you a dark sky. These are the only thing you should see in a daylight sky. I'm just using your own pseudoscience. This is what they explain. Okay, you see the ball Earth here? When it's 90 degrees to the sun, you see a quarter of a moon crescent. Half of a moon, I mean. And then on the other side, you'll see this side lightened and this side darkened when it's 90 degrees over here. But you can film it at a full moon in the daylight sky. That should be impossible because it's behind the curve of the Earth. All right, it's 250,000 miles out in space. Have you drawn it up to scale? That's what I'm saying. At scale, all this shit they give us breaks down. It does not work. That's why you get cartoons. Question this silliness for yourself and wake up. Let God be true and every man be a liar.
When someone tells you you should see something, as they do when they explain these phases, and these things should appear in a daylight sky, but you can see them at night, that's opposite what you've been told. That is an obvious sign that you've been lied to. So since you and the globalist both wish to explain away the 2018 lunar eclipse footage from observatories like the Barakat Observatory in Israel being 180 degrees opposite the observatory in Santorini, and Perth to Johannesburg being rotated, whereas Paulster, you claimed we couldn't use that or discuss it because we had no idea of how those cameras were mounted, sort of implying that the cameras on these telescopes were mounted sideways, upside down, or whatever. The globalist didn't use that excuse at first. He tried to substitute the footage from Barakat with something in Saudi Arabia. Then he just flat out claimed there was a mirror on the Barakat Observatory, and that's why the footage was upside down or 180 opposite from Greece. Then when the footage didn't match in Perth, he tried to explain that they didn't mount that camera correctly. So he sort of did the same thing. So I want to see, just for laughs, what you guys claim with this being seen in the night sky and not on the daylight side, if the explainers aren't lying. Again, October 8th, this is 59%, okay? This is what it looks like. And here it's 49% on October 9th. Again, these are things that should be only visible in the daylight, but it's at 1:45 p.m. or 11:45 p.m. This one was at 1 a.m., 2:30 a.m., okay? 4 a.m. You might try to say, well, you're right there at the terminator line, so technically you can see that. But these, no way. It's what I was saying when you give me your little PDF explanation of these moon phases. You try to say, well, you're on the terminator side. You try to put it right at the cusp of daylight within an hour or so, like you might be able to try and explain this footage. But this, you're clearly several hours before daylight. There's no way it should be visible from the night side. Only in the daylight, if the moon is always half lit, as they tell us. So we step through here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we go to the 11th, 29% they claim. Again, 29%. 19%, it rises at 1:52 a.m. I filmed it at 2:30. There it is. So, explain away. I can't wait. Since we've confirmed that this 49%, less than half or a quarter phase of a moon, according to the Brain Pop UK kids film, where they explain how the moon phases work, these phases between here and here, any phase between, should only be visible on the daylight side of the Earth. We can count it up to us seeing it as refraction, your favorite excuse for the liars, that obviously you claim is no problem to explain away the New Mexico horizontal eclipse footage, where it refracted up over half the radius of the Earth in the western horizon. Whereas I've shown you video of me filming the waxing gibbous moon phase at 99% plus in the eastern sky with the sun in the west. It's totally opposite, but that's fine, except that theory breaks down when you look at this moon phase, which looks full, but it's a 99% waxing or waning gibbous. Look here, mooncalc.org. Waning gibbous 98% on October 2nd. Therefore, you should see this in the eastern horizon before sunset if refraction were true, but you can't duplicate it. You can't get me a video or film it yourself with that moon phase ever above the horizon in the eastern sky, which would prove refraction were true, but you can't do it. That proves it's a lie. It's a made-up excuse to explain away a moon phase that you shouldn't see, i.e. the horizontal eclipse disappearing. That's not the Earth's shadow. It's not refracted up on the daylight side of the planet just for that specific moon phase. That proves Jesus told the truth.
Again, I just wanted to document the 98% full moon, I guess you'd call it, on June 3rd, 2020. Zoomed in a little bit so you can see the whole thing. Sun's behind clouds, so I can't show you that. A little bit after 8 p.m. Wake up, curveball. Again, this is June 4th, 2020. Just wanted to show you before the sun sets at about 8:05 Denver, Colorado time. If it was 98% full yesterday, then that can't be 100% full moon, right? Because that would mean that they're lying. See the blue sky? That means we're on the blue side of the ball. We already know if you're 6 feet tall, it's only 3 miles to the horizon. Okay? Can't see more than 3 miles in any one direction. So we're clearly on the daylight side of the ball. And that looks like 100% full moon to me, with the sun in the sky. Yesterday you could say it was 98%, today it's 100%, right? In the daylight sky. Wake up before you burn up, curveballer. We're being lied to on a grand scale. Ain't nobody going into space, it's bullshit. Wake up.
So I believe I've, after recording it, downloading it, recording it, slowing the speed 3 different times, I believe I've got it at the correct time and date in correlation to Denver time on June 3rd, 2020. So double check that for me and let me know if this is okay. I'll use this one and the following day, which makes it closer to 100%. Let me know what you think. Okay, Paul, again, this should comport to what it is at June 4th, 8 p.m. Denver Mountain Time. I don't believe I'd be here, though, because that looks like the coast of California to me. However, we'll see. We'll spread our planispheric domes over each of our locations on our 3D AutoCAD version of this cartoon.
Let's not overthink things the Bible says. He uses the simple things to confound the wise. Let me give you the exact quote from one of the smartest men to ever live. Tesla said the following on the theory of relativity in 1935 New York Times interview, quote, "The theory wraps all the errors and fallacies and clothes them in a magnificent mathematical garb, which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blind to the underlying errors," end quote. It went on to say something else, and I put that in the email. Anyhow, I will stick with the simple things that prove that I've been saying, but you just don't want to hear. I've been asking you to prove Jesus wrong. So please prove this wrong. He said the moon gives its own light. Let me show you what they explain about our moon phases is a lie. Go and watch this Brain Pop UK video from the 2:05 mark and pause it at the logical fallacy which occurs at the 2:24 mark. This video is less than 5 minutes long. I put the link in there. What I've done is take these excerpts out and put in this film. They didn't make a mistake. Those crescent phases happen at night, and that is why they show it to you. It totally contradicts their claims and proves they are wrong about how the moon phases occur. It's just like the nearly full moon in the daylight sky with the sun. That shouldn't occur, you know? And then on a horizontal eclipse or a solarian eclipse, you see it all night and it's up with the day. But you see it go in totality, which means it was less than 100% and goes to 100% when the sun comes up. And you never see that on any other full moon. It always rises right before the sun sets. You understand? Selective refraction is what I claim. Just like the proof, the 1.5 hour video in my Google Drive. Go to the 11:30 mark of that film and mute my voice and watch the cartoon till 11:48. And notice how when the sun is eclipsed above and below that point of totality, the image or bite out of the sun is 180 degrees opposite from each place that is above and below that point. They didn't make a mistake in that cartoon either. This is the truth in plain sight. They don't explain it because it proves the sun and moon can't be that far away. But they can't hide it from you because you'd see it and then question. So they just show it and move on. This totally proves they are wrong. I'm sure this is why Jesus said this would be the only sign given to the last generation. The sign of Jonah is a total solar eclipse, if you don't know. He says that in Matthew. You either have eyes to see or you've been blinded by the signs and lying wonders of Satan, which are manifested on the TV with fake space and all the other dazzling things they show us. Use that AutoCAD drawing I sent you and duplicate what they show. You can't. That is why they never see, that's why you always see cartoons that show the truth and information that contradicts their claims in the cartoon, but is never elaborated on. This is the only thing you need to show me, Paul. Explain this. This is the truth, and you need to realize it. Try with that accurate drawing I sent you to prove how that could work. I love you, brother. Have a nice weekend, and I will pray God will open your eyes to the truth as I presented it here.
So we see nothing at all, or at best a dark disk. This phase is called the new moon. Right, as you move along in your orbit, more and more of your bright side becomes visible to me. In other words, the moon is waxing. Phases where you see less than half of the bright side are called crescent.
Eclipse begins. The bite keeps getting bigger and bigger. A little past 1:02 p.m., the last of the sun disappears behind the moon. The last light of the sun, shining between two mountains or a crater rim on the moon, slowly vanishes.
They will go into great detail about Bailey's beads or balls, craters, and all these things that they force feed you to try to make you believe it's the moon. We know everything that we're talking about. They show what you're going to see if you're standing here. They show what you see if you stand here, but they don't explain none of it. It doesn't make sense. How could the bite out of the sun come on this side and then the shadow be over here? Stuff like this. If you inspect this closely, it takes, how far? What, 3 hours to cross totality on the Solilian, or as better known as horizontal eclipse, with your 10-degree tilt as you claim. Really? I didn't see no 10-degree tilt. I mean, you're just trying to fool yourself. That's fine. But let's not claim something is true that is not. You know what I mean? It's not advantageous to finding truth when we just want to claim things are one way when in reality they're not. Like this right here. Wednesday's lunar eclipse is technically impossible. There it is in Loveland, Colorado. According to your math, that's 16% tilted to the mountain range behind it. I mean, it's just impossible. You do see that, right? Loveland, Colorado's 40 degrees on your ball with your 23.5-degree tilt. It's impossible. But you just claim things that are impossible. And the guy's backflip and fake space, really, there's a multitude of reasons other than somebody pulling on his wire. Yeah, the obvious pulling on his wire isn't what happened in your mind, but you don't proffer anything to the alternative. And you have selective refraction when you have a horizontal eclipse. I mean, that's what I couldn't comprehend. You deal in cognitive dissonance like it's a normal thought pattern. How in the hell can it be less than 100% full and it's going down when the sun's coming up? When any other nearly full moon that you film always sets an hour before the sun comes up, except in this particular instance. Now refraction can refract the moon up over half the radius of the Earth so you can see it on the daylight side. That's the kind of mental gymnastics you've got to jump through to believe what you believe, and then you want to tell me I don't understand what you're saying. When you talk about this subject and you try to search for other pictures, they'll call it anything other than a Solilian or a horizontal moon to pretend to the silly people like myself, oh, that's not what I want. That's not the same moon. It is the same moon. But again, it's all trusted. This is simple. If what they claim here for the lunar eclipses is true, then you would see it act a different way. The shadow, given your position on the ball Earth. See, this is from Gloucestershire, England. This is what they say is going on. It disappears when it's in the umbra. I call this it's the umbra. I call it abracadabra. It's all baloney. And you can prove it when you check into it. Like the Solilian. What I keep referring to as the horizontal eclipse. See that? Horizontal eclipse. It's a lesser known name than this. And they explain that it's right here when it disappears, which means the video shot from New Mexico or this from Colorado This is because the Earth, or the moon rather, is not at 100% full yet. It's 100% when it's right here, which means the moon is over here somewhere, moving this direction. So it's more than half the radius of the Earth behind it when you see it filmed in this photo. And they're claiming it is refraction that makes it visible. So anyone can use what man claims for the moon, which is always half lit, as a lie. And you can prove Jesus told you the truth just by looking at the moon phases. You have crescent moons, which should only appear over here on the daylight side, but they're over here at the nighttime too. Just like this horizontal eclipse, for them to be right is absurd. I mean, if it's true, then you would have, like I said, in that photo from Colorado, it would be tilted, because Colorado, see how this is tilted? It would appear like that from the perspective of Colorado, because you're 40 degrees up here on this ball. You're not located at the equator. You understand? This stuff is bunk. It's a pseudoscience. Wake up.
Okay, it's before 8 p.m., July 2nd, 2020. As you can see, the moon appears to be full. I'm sure they call it 91% or so, because everybody knows a full moon in the daytime is impossible. But I'm telling you, this should be impossible too, according to our model of the phases. It should be a dark sky to see something that gibbous. Along with the sun right there. Shouldn't see that either, with both of them in the sky. Wake up.
I do love you, Brother Paul. It's been put on my heart to reply here. As I've told you before, it's a cunningly devised fable. To the casual observer that wants to believe, it's 100% proof, but when you delve into it, that's where it's exposed. And that's what I'm hoping you, with an open mind, that are coming from it, unlike most curveballers I've run across, they don't think about it to the depth that you do or try to prove their point. They just pack up their ball, I guess you would say, and go home because they get tired of the deep way that I come at the subject and make them think. For instance, this shadow PDF that you gave me of the selenium, I guess that's how you pronounce it, with what they call the umbra penumbra. I like to call it abracadabra. Anyhow, it's tapered. So that means it has to be even more to the center line of the ball earth, if you will, before this here shadow occurs. But as you point out in your very good presentation here, this is how it would appear to someone on the equator. And you're right. But again, you've got it depicted very close to the horizon when you see that. And I'll insert a video that puts that to bed. Instead of your cartoon graphics here, we'll go with the real video I'll show you from New Mexico, wherein this shadow should be at an angle. It shouldn't be straight up and down like you've got pictured for someone on the equator, as it would be, because it's syzygy. They're in the straight line, center line of all your magical balls. So yes, from New Mexico, it would have to be at an angle, but it's not. It's parallel with the ground. So anyway, hopefully you'll let me put this up on my channel after you view it and approve it as factual information, so that it'll edify one of the 62 people that I have subscribed. Or if not, hopefully someone in the future that will see it. Sorry about the email earlier, Paul. I was confused with the utter absurdity. I hadn't seen your little red dot or yellow dot here. it is kind of absurd to think that we can see this phenomenon over here when it clearly can't even be at the 99% mark when you're coming up over the terminator.
All right, so today I just want to discuss, more of the psyche of these statist cowards that will come out and fight the flat earth every day. Or basically any truth troll, okay? People that say conspiracy theories, this or that. But mainly because they have taken on the roles themselves as statist reinforcers, statist defenders, tyrannical defenders. And I'm going to prove all this just using history. These people like Team Skeptic, Simon Dan, Fight the Flat Earth, all of these, again, establishment defenders, they claim to be so freaking intelligent and educated. Apparently, they skipped history class in order to double up on scientism classes to get brainwashed with that babble. So they never learned their history. Let me tell you something, brilliant statist coward defenders. There are cliches, time-tested cliches that become cliches because they're true. One of those cliches is those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. You people are the living proof of that. Once again, I'm talking about Team Skeptic, Simon Dan, Fight the Flat Earth, Red's Rhetoric, Sly Sparkane, Wolfie, all of you little lying statist propagandist cowards. You are the people. Let's just take, okay, again, remember, I'm talking to these liars and the sheep that support them, okay? So people that come to my channel, understand, I'm going at this from their perspective, okay? Everything the establishment tells us is true. And all the history that we've read about World War II is true. Therefore, Hitler came to power through political means, not a militarized guerrilla takeover. So, you are the very people, the very useful idiots, propagandists that Hitler would have used to take over Germany and institute his fascist, racist, Nazi policies. How else would Hitler have gotten into power if he didn't have blind followers supporting and promoting his garbage? Riddle me that, brilliant scientists. Why can't you learn from history that questioning your government is how you keep it in check? This is why we have these things called checks and balances in our government, or at least are supposed to. And to have a backup to that, we are supposed to check and balance our individual politicians and make sure they are not corrupted and doing more harm to the people than they are good. Yet you people continually propagandize everything the state does. That's what makes you too stupid to realize the symbolic gesture of the mask wearing for the overhyped corona flu virus, okay? All they are doing by making people wear those masks is symbolically telling them to shut the fuck up. That is what's going on. They are literally telling you to shut your mouth. Because too many people like us, not statist little propagandist cowards like you, but people like us are speaking the truth about their corrupt criminal asses, while you fucking pussy criminal-loving, pedo-loving bitches defend them. That's why you're the lowest form of earth on this earth, or life on this earth, and you are indeed making money off defending these criminals. So as far as I'm concerned, I pray you are prosecuted when all the real truth comes out. When you are fully exposed as the status defending propagandists you are. I told you people years ago, you are doing yourselves and the globe no favor because you come out here and lie continuously every day. And all you can ever do is defend a status position, which shows you are not skeptics of anybody or anything except true skeptics of the system. You only ever fight true skeptics that are asking questions as they should as American citizens of their government. And you continually berate, belittle, slander, attack, and harass them for it. You are the criminal, degenerate, propagandist, status coward bitches that Hitler used to take over Germany. Is get rid of statist, reinforcing brown shirt, thug bitch cowards just like you. Team Skeptic, Simon Dan, Fight the Flat Earth, all the Johnny-come-lately little flat earth trolls. You are the scum of the earth. You will be exposed. And one way or another, vengeance will be his. So you will pay for it. Go ahead and deny it and hate on God some more while you defend Satan, the government, your heroes. You fucking morons. You're too stupid to learn from history. That's why you're useful idiots being used to repeat it. Because you're so brilliant.
You made a comment about this lady's hair and saying that because she's in space for so long, of course she hairsprays it up so it stays out of the way. But I don't think you've ever heard these people's comments to this reporter that gets these reactions from them. And I'm going to play that for you because she's pointing to her hair as the proof that she is in outer space. When you look at 0G, you see it flowing like it would in a swimming pool. So that debunks your argument that, of course, she's hairsprayed it up. No, she's claiming it's in this form because she's in space. And then this guy, you'll hear him also say her hair proves they're in space. So see, Paul, when you try to cover up for the lies of the fakers, it's obvious. It comes back and bites you in the ass. Just like your AutoCAD proof of the 2017 solar eclipse doesn't work up on Nashville's 37-degree parallel.
You look like you're in a studio, maybe in Omaha, Nebraska or something. The shot is so clear. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair?
I don't know. We're going to have to do something for you.
Yeah.
I
want to do it. I know.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Watch this. Can everybody float around for us? That was really cool, Chris. Look at her.
That is so cool.
Look at her.
That is so cool.
I think Sandy's hair is pretty much a dead giveaway. I think Sandy's hair is pretty much a dead giveaway.
Hi Bert, I hope you're well and hope you enjoyed your holiday. We're going to take a look at your challenge to explain or show the parallax of the solar eclipse on a 2-scale AutoCAD model. So this is what we're talking about. I've just picked to this point when the area of totality is just over Nashville, because you have these two nice points here, north and south of that line, where the sun is visible above the moon when you're north of the line of totality and south of the moon when you're south of the line of totality. I say that's caused due to parallax, that when you're north, you're then north of the moon, or further north than the moon is, so you're going to see the sun over the top of the moon, and vice versa when you're south of that line of totality. You are completely incredulous that could possibly happen because the moon is so far away. It is so far away, but the sun is much further away. And it's the proportional distance. It doesn't really matter how far away the moon is, it's the proportional difference between your position and the moon's position versus your position and the sun's position. That's what creates the parallax, and that is what makes the parallax stronger, if it's not stronger, but makes it move more when you move a shorter distance, because the moon is so much closer than the sun. Hundreds of times closer. So here we have my AutoCAD model. Now I've created a model. I've not used yours. The reason being is that when I open yours in, which is created in 20-year-old software, it doesn't recognise the objects as spheres, and so it doesn't show a radius, as you rightly said. This way I can show you the radius, I can show you all the measurements, and show you that it's absolutely correct, and to scale too far. So if I go slowly through the Earth, you'll see it blast through, and there's the moon covering the sun from in front of the Earth. If I pan that around, there's our three objects again, and see where they are in 3D space. And once again, just to prove myself, because you don't seem to accept anything I say, you can see the coordinates there. I'm not going to read them out again, but you can look at them and confirm all this. That this is correct, the distances are correct, the radius is correct. It's all right. Okay, good. So back to the moon eclipse view, like I say, which is where we started. Now this moon eclipse view is looking from a position just in front of the Earth, to simulate an observer on the Earth at the front edge, if you like, or the edge closest to the sun, looking at the eclipse. I can also go into View Manager. This is going to be important. So I want to show you that there are no other views set up in here, only moon eclipse. So model views, that's where all the views go. At the moment it's only moon eclipse, and you can see also the coordinates of that particular view. It's a camera view. So the X is 20 miles to one side, just because it's very difficult to position the view exactly centered. The Z is 20 miles above the centre, but that Y position 94 million and some miles. So we're looking for a position just in front of the Earth. Okay, I hope that's all the proof you need to show that at least that the moon can cover the sun in perspective. The perspective that we have from this location, that is what happens. Okay, we're going to come back to this moon eclipse view a few times. Every time I've made a change, just so you can see. So we have a base point to start from. So it's important that you understand that this isn't, when I click this moon eclipse, it's not going to a different diagram or a different file. It's just bringing me back here. If I move this now, get that back on the screen. If I pan around, I can pan to anywhere I want. I'll walk backwards a bit again, so we can see them. Our bodies in space there. And from wherever I want, if I just click back on moon eclipse, it takes me back to that position. So from here, what I'm going to do is try and match the view that we have to the view that is shown on this map. As I say, I've picked this point in Nashville, just by Nashville, because it's shown a view up here and a view down there that we're going to try and replicate, and then see how far we have to move in order to replicate that view. So measuring on Google Earth, there's Nashville. You can do this yourself, I won't do it now. The distance between Nashville and that kind of Michigan border is about 400 miles, and down to where is that? Mississippi, southern Mississippi, Louisiana, down that area is about 450 miles. So let's see if what we can recreate comports with those figures at all. So all I'm going to do is use the pan command to move the moon down a bit, bearing in mind, like I say, we're currently just in front of the Earth. And I'm going to show you that again, because I don't want any accusations of cheating here. You know, I'm not a liar. I'm not a cheat. If I say I'm doing something, then I'm doing it. If I say I can't do something, then I can't do it. You know, but I can do this. So there you go. There's the Y position of this view that we were just in. This moon eclipse view of 94 million something miles. So we've got ourselves into a position that is similar, I think, to the image shown on the diagram. You can just about see to the two kind of extremities of the sun there, left and right side. There's enough of a wedge to show that. So I think you'll agree that's similar. It's not far off. Okay, so we've got a similar view to that view from the sort of Michigan border around there. So all I'm going to do is create a new view. Hopefully. There we go. I'm going to call it Michigan. Okay, and now that appears in the view window along with that moon eclipse view, and I can go into View Manager and look at Michigan, and we'll see from the Z orientation of the camera how far north I've had to go to get that view. So the that Z number is 344 miles. I said it was 400 miles, so that's not bad. That's fairly close. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be 100% precise to the view that you would get in that location, because we're not factoring in the exact position of that observer on the angle of the Earth, the slope of that particular part of the Earth, which will affect. This isn't a linear straight line distance. This is a line. The distance between those 2 points of about 400 miles is around a curve, so a straight line distance would be shorter. And we're talking about a straight north-south line as well, whereas this, we haven't factored in any of those conditions. But still, 344 miles compared with 400 miles for a view that you said was impossible, that parallax could never happen within such a short distance. This shows that it is. We also need to remember that this map isn't necessarily going to be exact, these positions. I mean, this is a very large location that this sun, this eclipse is centered on. So I've just used somewhere around the center point to measure to. So not bad. Okay, this one down the bottom here, sort of southern Louisiana, this is a bit of a larger chunk than the one at the top. And again, the other way around. So let's go back to our AutoCAD model. So at the moment all we have is Michigan and moon eclipse in that view model there. Moon eclipse, remember, the Z position was 20, it should really have been 0, but 20 miles you're still within the umbra, so it's still eclipsed. And Michigan up at 344 north, or positive on the Z axis. So now I'm just going to pan back down again. So we're going to go effectively travel south so that we see the view that we get on that PowerPoint on the YouTube video, which looks like that. So again, I think that's fairly close. It was actually off to one side a little bit, but we're just looking at the north and south here, so I won't go to that extent. Again, we'll do new view. We'll call it Louisiana. And now we can go into View Manager, look at the Louisiana view down there, and look, that Z position is now at minus 400, so we've travelled 400 miles south of where we were at in the middle of totality, and we'd see something like that. If you remember, we had 450 miles there for that distance, so again it's within a decent margin of error.
Again, Paul, let me compliment you on your full-scale AutoCAD model. But again, you're drawing all of this from the perspective of Nashville, Tennessee being 20 miles above the equator. So the parallax would not be observable in your full-scale model because you're at, what, 36 degrees or something above the equator. So you would have a huge, like this much of the moon down here, right? And nothing up here, but it wouldn't result in a total solar eclipse. The sun path is not directly over Nashville. It's on the equator. That's the ecliptic plane. I think you understand this now, and that's why you resorted back to a cartoon. That's why I say it's impossible, and you've proven that. Now, if you can get it to recreate this or the one in 2024 with a full-scale model, then you've actually shown that your model of heliocentrism is true and correct. But it's not. That's why I say they'll show a cartoon and they won't get into the details, because the details proves their model is BS. It's bullshit. It don't work. Well, as Dan would say, you people are nothing more than status defenders. So for Odeleep, the globalist, and you, Paul, the only way for me to refute your half-truths or fallacies, false paradigms, if you will, is to gather more data points from different places and then go out and purchase the new version of AutoCAD, and then I can take and import different positions or data points from your Google Earth that you love so much and actually find out, will this stuff triangulate? Since SketchUp is not a very accurate thing, but I can take this software and take Odeleep SketchUp and then compare. So it's not going to happen today. I'm going to try to get a subscription for the cheapest and longest period of time that I can, but it's probably going to be around the end of the year when I do so. So banding about from comment to comment and email to email, I'll just put a stop to that, put this rather long video together for food for thought for you fellas. So you don't think I've just went away. It's just kind of time consuming to go over points every day. This should suffice.